There's been a lot of interest in budget flash options for Canon cameras. And I want to talk a little bit about one of the best options, and that's the Yongnuo brand. I have here the 468II. This video is going to be a little bit of an unboxing, a little bit of a discussion of external flashes, a little bit of a discussion of Yongnuo versus Canon's own flashes, and a quick kind of overview of setting up and using this flash on and off the camera. It may end up being a little bit of a long video. If you're interested in only knowing how to fire this flash externally, off camera in slave mode, I have a separate video that shows that in a much shorter amount of time. Look for that link down below. I'll also be going through, there are several different Yongnuo models, some that offer ETTL, some that don't, some that offer ETTL only when they're on the camera, some that don't when they're off the camera. I will create a blog post and have that linked down below as well, that gives you kind of the rundown and the bullet points of each of these. So this is the Yongnuo 468II. It is kind of their cheapest that does ETTL on camera. And I'm going to open it up here. I've had it open already. This isn't a true unboxing. I don't usually do those because I'm not sure what shows. It comes with a little flash stand, a velvet bag, velvety feeling, and inside there, the flash. Now, it also in here is a manual and an advertisement for another type of flash. It's a pretty thin manual. You're going to have a better chance of finding information online, or you're going to have better luck finding information online. So here it is, the Yongnuo 468II Speedlight. It does offer ETTL on the camera. Right now it's running for about $80 to $90. For $100, they have a different version. As I said, I'll put a link down below that offers ETTL on and off the camera. So I'm going to throw some batteries in here. Lots of reports out there on the internet about issues with batteries in these. The general consensus is if you use a good brand like InLoops, these are the brand that you want to use for most of your applications. They work quite nicely. I'm going to throw these in here. But the general consensus being if you use InLoops, you have far fewer problems. The battery door feels a little flimsy, a little breaky when you're opening and closing it. I have to say the Canon 430EX feels a little bit more solid. But in general, the build quality of this feels quite nicely. The rotation of the head is nice. The tilting works well. You get both a diffuser and a little white card bouncer up here. I'll talk more about those in a few minutes. You have your infrared port, plus this is really nice for focusing in low light. I get a lot of questions about, hey, my camera is struggling to focus in low light. There is the pop-up strobe action on Canon cameras where the little flash pops up, if it isn't already up, fires out a pulse of light or multiple pulses of light that helps you get focus. I advise people often to turn that off. It's really annoying. When it happens to your subjects, they often think that the picture is just been taken when really the camera was just getting focus, and so they may be smiling at you, they see this flash of light, and then they go back to doing whatever they're doing, and when you take the actual picture a half a second later, their faces aren't so good. So this throws out this kind of crisscross of infrared light that helps it focus in low light, helps your camera focus in low light. My general tip, if you don't have an external flash for focusing in low light, use that center focus point, put it on an high contrast area like a collar, white or the brighter of the skin, and the collar often create a nice contrast zone for the camera to focus on. You know, if it's a silhouette or a darker skin person, you want to do on the edge, kind of basically where the background, which probably is a brighter color, and their face meet, so that you get your focus that way as well. Okay, so, but overall, you know, build quality other than this kind of chintzy door is good. The back panel here, it's turned on by holding down the on-off button, and it takes it a second to power up, and then it's on. It's got a nice little pilot light that you can press to test. Okay. Right now it's in manual mode at quarter power plus 7. And I can switch through multi-mode, S1, S2, and TTTL. There are Yongnuo flashes out there that don't do TTTL at all. I'd advise most beginners to stay away from those, especially if you're going to use them on camera some. If you're only going to use it off camera, manual is usually fine. But on camera, TTTL is nice because then there's communication that happens between the camera and the flash that help create a better exposure, or the best possible exposure, and it works very well. If you do manual only on the camera, you're often having to not only adjust your shutter speed and your aperture and your ISO, but then you have to go to the top of the flash and adjust the flash output as well. Whereas you just kind of have the flash exposure compensation. Manual mode is just that. It just simply puts out an amount of light. You tell it how much power, from 1/128th to all the way up to 1/1 power. I skipped over multi, didn't I? Multi is a fun function that is I've used once or twice for fun, and never in any kind of real situation. It fires a strobe of light, multiple pulses in a single exposure, and that can be used to create some really neat effects. We'll come back and talk about that at some point in the future. S1 and S2. Honestly, I haven't been able to figure out what the difference is between S1 and S2 yet on this model. The manual, as I said, is very thin, but I know for a fact that S1 will act as a slave mode and can be fired when it's off the camera. But let's go back to our TTL. So in TTL mode, I could throw it on the top of the camera. First I have to change, there we go. Slides in, and then this wheel slides down so that it locks in and it's not going to fall out on you. And now with it up there, if I take a picture, the flash fires. Pretty straightforward. I don't even have a card in the camera, but you saw the back of the chair over there. And if I go into menu and flash control, flash firing is enabled. It's in evaluative mode. We're not going to talk about that now. Built-in flash function setting, external flash function setting, because this is an external flash. When the external flash is on, this might be obvious, but the pop-up flash will not pop up. Alright, so if we go to external flash settings, we can see that it can talk to this flash, and we have the option of ETTL, manual, or multi. It doesn't allow us to move into the slave modes on here because it's attached to the camera. We can turn our wireless transmission on. Yeah, that's still, I just want to say. But it ignores that too on camera. We can force the zoom. So this has an automatic zoom that's smart enough. I have a prime lens on here right now. Let's throw it off real quick and switch to the 18-135 from the Canon. There, you just heard it. So this flash is capable of mechanically zooming to match your lens from 24 to 85 is what it says. Let's go back into the menu here and look at that again. So we can zoom from, well, interestingly enough, the back of the camera says 24 to 85, and the options we have in the menu are from 24 to 105. And I think I saw in the manual as well that it said 24 to 105. Okay, let's just pray. Okay. We have whether or not we're first curtain synchronization, second curtain synchronization, or high-speed sync. We're going to ignore these curtains right now, and high-speed sync just allows you to shoot at higher shutter speeds than your flash max, which is usually 1/250th of a second for most cameras. Again, that's something we can talk about in a future video. Flash exposure compensation. So as I said, the camera and the flash are communicating with each other and saying, well, I think this is what your output should be to take this picture. That's what the camera is saying to the flash. But you, knowing better, just like when you work with a camera and you can say this exposure should be a little bit brighter or a little bit darker, you can tell the flash, well, I need a little bit more power or a little bit less power. And so that's what your flash exposure compensation is. And so we can move off that. And then flash exposure bracketing, which actually will take multiple images, very similar to auto exposure bracketing, but each image will see a different flash output, different amount of flash output. All right, so let's back out of this. I don't think, do we have any custom functions on this flash? Oh, we have several. Flash distance indicator, whether or not it turns off, modeling flash, cancel. I'm just going to run through these. I'm not prepared to talk about them at this mode, this time. Quick flash with continuous shot, test firing with auto shot flash, AF assist beam firing, enabled, auto zoom for sensor size, slave auto power off timer at 60 minutes or 1 hour and 10 minutes. Big difference there. External flash, slave auto power off, cancel within 8 hours, within 1 hour. Flash recycle with external power. Flash exposure. So, alright, so we had a total of, what was that, 13 different custom functions there built into this flash that, as far as I can tell, are only accessed through the camera menu. I don't see any way of accessing those on the camera itself, and that is different from something like the Canon 430EX. So this is an older Canon 430EX. It is not the 2 version, but it's the one I had that is most similar in size, shape, and kind of feature set. But on the back of this one, you have additional buttons. And you can get into custom functions, switch your mode. So a little bit easier to navigate through this system. But the 430, let's pretend this is the 430EX2, because there's not a whole lot of difference between the EX and the EX2. Is that it does do ETTL off camera. This does not do ETTL off camera. This is manual only. The Yongnuo is manual only. But otherwise, their feature set is very, very similar. One of the things, as I was talking about, build quality is nice. The way that I suggest you use an external flash on your camera for most indoor applications is rotated backward and pointed up. So it's about 45 degrees up and back over a shoulder. If you're holding it and taking pictures, it's kind of over a shoulder. Now, one of the issues that I have with this, and the 430 that is the same as this, is you can rotate so that it fires that way, but it does not spin far enough that it can get backwards on the other side. A more expensive flash, like the 580EX, does do a 360 spin. So it can start in the very back, it can spin all the way around. Got to push the little button so it doesn't lock sometimes. And see how I can tilt it onto the other side. And that is as far as that one goes. Now this is a much more expensive flash, and Yongnuo's more expensive flashes do this as well. So that's something to think about. But again, for a budget flash, indoor applications, family functions, getting better pictures of your child or children, this is a really nice option. So we looked at what it can do. Let's take it off the camera for a moment. And I'll throw up some samples at the end of this video with on-camera, off-camera, onboard flash, etc. I'm going to slide it into its little hot shoe cradle here. And one thing to know about this, kind of nifty, is these are plastic and cheap, so I wouldn't rely on them a ton. And that goes the same for Canons, they're not any stronger. But they do have a tripod socket at the bottom. So you can screw this in and set it up on a tripod somewhere if you need to get it higher in a room, or just have it out of the way. Okay, so it's off the camera now, and I can switch through the modes and go to S1. And I don't care what power it's at right now, let's just leave it there. Now, as you know, or maybe you don't, but now you're about to, Canon cameras, most of them, even the entry-level DSLRs, except for the very lower and very older models, do wireless flash control. It's built in. The catch is, though, and many people assume this, and it's easy to assume, that wireless means radio. It doesn't. It means optical. So there are no wires. This camera and this camera are both, oh, shouldn't leave the lens off like that, are both capable of firing this flash, but they must use the pop-up flash to do so. Now, if that sounds like a terrible thing, it's not terrible because you can control the output from the onboard flash, and in fact, you can disable it. It'll still fire. Let's talk about this more in a second. It'll still fire, but that exposure, or that flash from the onboard will only trigger the external. It will not impact or contribute to the exposure of the image. So let's look at this in more detail. So T5i here. I'm going to go into the menu, and we've been in here, Flash Control. And now under Built-in Flash Settings, we have a couple options. Normal firing, Easy Wireless, or Custom Wireless. It's very easy. That's why they call it Easy Wireless. To select the Easy Wireless, and with this in S1 mode, when I take a picture, that will fire. I just took a picture, it didn't fire. It has to have this up. Now, I'm going to point this kind of towards you all so you can see for sure that it's firing. You know, the electronic shutter as the video is running doesn't always catch it. But let's do a couple so you can see for sure. Pretty sure that it should have caught one of those. So this is firing. this is up. If I took a picture right now, you would see a difference in exposure being contributed by this, because we're just doing easy wireless. Both of these are firing. I can go back into that setting, and you can see channel 1, and this comes up as, actually it doesn't have any channels on it. It's just set, just works. Very, very easy. One thing I actually noticed is that I believe this will fire. Let's disable. Go to normal firing. So it's just firing. Yep. So in fact, with this Canon camera and this Yongnuo Flash, it doesn't even have to be in wireless mode. If this flash fires, this does too. That's not such a great thing, because then this camera is not aware that there's another flash firing in any way. Now, because there isn't TTL, that doesn't actually make a huge difference in how well it works or doesn't work, but it is something to be aware of. Let's go to custom wireless now, though, and look at these options. So we've got 3 functions in in the wireless. We have the one where these two are working together. We have one where that little icon that I've selected now is just the external unit working, or the external plus the pop-up flash, and this lets you set up even multiple flashes so you could have multiple fire at once. So now if we use this mode right here, that's the only thing I've changed. Went into custom and then said disable this, basically. We'll see that language in the 70D in a second if we want. When I fire, they both fire now. But if I was taking a picture in a room, this light output from here would not impact the exposure. However, it will in extreme circumstances. If you have a lot of reflective surfaces around. I've been having a conversation, ongoing conversation right now with a person who has a lot of mirrors in their dining room. And if the camera is in the image, you will see the flash here in any pictures that are being taken in that circumstance. Or if the exposure level of the room is very low, let's try and take an ambient light photo, you have a flash firing someplace else to add a little bit of an accent to it. It is enough light that it can impact exposures in those circumstances, but it's rare. All right, so keep that in mind. You say, well, what if I don't want this to fire at all? I'm in a room of mirrors, or I'm taking an ambient light picture, it's very low. Well, that's when you need to buy one of those little radio transceiver setups. Cowboy Wireless, or Cowboy makes some, Yongnuo makes some. One slides in here, the flash slides into the other, and they talk to each other with radio signal, and then there is no extra flashing going on. I'll be talking about those very soon in more videos. Probably by the time you're watching this, just look for a link down below if you want more information. Okay, so let's look for a second though what it's like in the 70D. Just for example, it's a little different, but not really. So if I go into the menu, I'm on flash control, which is on page 2 of the menu, and I go in here to built-in flash function setting and wireless function. I have the option of disabling it, or this should look very familiar, these options of both of them together, or just this. Nothing different here. 70D works exactly as the T5i, except for the menu looks a little bit different, and I couldn't find the pop-up flash button. And now when this fires, that will fire as well. And for fun, actually I think it's already been doing it, hasn't it? We may not even notice. You can fire multiple flashes. You could buy 10 of these and set them around the room. They're not going to talk to each other, but they all will fire. So you can have lots and lots working. Is it a big deal that this does not do ETTL off the camera? The Canon does, the 430EX2 does, of course the 580 and the 600. The 600 also has the radio transmitters built in. You still need some kind of transmitter, Canon makes one, or another 600, but they can talk to each other via radio. Another benefit of talking to each other via radio is line of sight. You don't need it anymore. These flashes do need to be able to see the flash from the camera to know that they're supposed to be firing. Is it a big deal that it doesn't do ETTL off camera? It is not such a big deal. But if you're nervous about that, for just 20 more bucks, the 565 does do that. But you can set this over in a corner, find a power output for it, take with just a couple of test shots, and then you're going to be fine to be walking around the room and taking photos most of the time. If it worries you, I said you could step up to the 565. The reason why you don't want a manual only on your camera is because your distance from you to the subject is changing greatly often in most circumstances, and so having to manually control the output of light that is directly flashing your subjects is a lot more work, and so that's why I just don't quite recommend it. Did I say did I cover everything that I said I was going to cover? I'm not positive I did, but I think this was a good start for this discussion. As I said, if you've watched this whole thing, thank you. We're up to 21 some odd minutes now. I have another video that shows just how to set this up separately. So that's much shorter, but you've watched it and now you basically got the idea. General opinion of these Yongnuos is very, very positive. I know very few people that are unhappy with them. A lot of happy customers. I think they offer a lot of value for the money. As I said, the 430EX2, it runs $200 and some odd. There are cheaper Canon flashes, the 270 and the 320, but the power output from those, the recycle time for those is a little bit slower. The 320 does add that little LED light, and it also works as a remote to fire your camera, to trigger your camera to take a picture. But those add-ons, are a little bit gimmicky and can be easily had with another remote that you buy for $9 or a nice LED light panel for $30, and you still are saving money if you've got something like this. And also the 270, I believe, doesn't do any of the rotation, only tilting. And you really want that rotation. It makes a big difference. Stay tuned to the end of this long video, and I'll throw up some samples of here's what it looks like, rotated, not rotated, straight on flash, onboard flash, all of those. Before we wrap up, I want to run through a few examples using the flash, both onboard and external, both on and off the camera. So this first one is just kind of give you a sense of the room. This is under a single light in the office space here. We're shooting up at about ISO 2500 with the 50mm prime at f2. Dim conditions, underexposed slightly, a little noisy. First picture here is with the onboard flash popped up, and it looks alright. I think this is a little underexposed as well, and I'm just curious if that flash exposure was correct. I'd have to go back and check, but it looks alright. Next picture is with the external flash, the Yongnuo 468II, on the camera and pointed directly at me. So you can see that this is bright. Our exposure is nice, but we're getting red eye because you have that flash directly pointed forward in line with the axis of the lens. That's really when you get that red eye. This next one I think is one of the best. We have the external, the Yongnuo 468II, on the camera, pointed upwards and backwards, yes, upwards and backwards is kind of the best way to show that or explain that, as I showed in my video. And it's bouncing and filling the room with this kind of nice light. The red eye is gone, and the lights, or the catch lights as we call them here in my pupils, have moved up into the kind of corners of my eye, which is often much more pleasing and much more natural looking. Now we have the external bounced with the onboard flash disabled. So we've actually taken the 468II off the camera. It's sitting away from it now. Still kind of pointed off in a different direction than me in the room. I think there's some interesting communications that I need to explore a little bit more in detail. It does seem that the Canon 70D onboard flash is ignoring the disabled command in these, because in this next one, this is when the onboard is enabled, and I see, I'm going to switch back and forth between these two, I see virtually no difference between them. So I need to explore that in a little bit more detail. Now remember, if everything is working correctly, you always do get that flash from the onboard, even when you say it's disabled. But when it is enabled, you should really see it noticeably impact the exposure. We're seeing no change here between these two, and so I'm going to follow this up more. Here we took the external and put it on my right, which is to the left of the frame as you're looking at it, so you can really see that the left is getting that light. It's also actually bouncing off the wall and then hitting me, so it's not pointed directly at me. And so just kind of giving you some ideas of the flexibility that you can get using an external flash and bringing it off the camera. And here it is again on my right. Now the onboard is disabled, and again, see very little difference between these two other than I've moved a little bit. Alright, so back to the video to finish up. I thank you for watching this, and please subscribe. Subscribing is powerful, and it's an easy way for you to support this work. If you've got any questions about cameras, external flashes, internal or onboard flashes, wireless flashing, custom wireless flashing, you can just leave a comment down below or come over and find me on Facebook. Great community of folks there as well. So I thank you so much for watching. Thanks.